Temporary buydowns, what are they? And how do we most effectively use them? Well, we have over 30 agents at our real estate brokerage, and we've been bringing buyers back to the market with outstanding success. Try to make this quick overview. I'm telling you, this is a powerful program. It is more powerful, more significant payment savings than even a $100,000 price reduction. And we'll see using our $550,000 example today. Now, these programs are easily funded through standard seller concessions. They significantly reduce the initial payments for the first 2 to 3 years, depending on the program that you use, and we're going to see examples of each. Now, friendly reminder, standard Fannie Mae max allowed seller concessions are 3%. That's conventional loans, 3% max allowed seller concessions. FHA allows 6% seller concessions. That's something you might want to put in the back of your memory. VA allows 4%, and that's going to come back and help us later. Now, I don't want to confuse anybody, but the borrowers still qualify at the normal market fixed rate commensurate with their credit profile. They do not qualify debt to income ratio wise at the reduced rate. So there's no debt to income ratio benefit, just payment benefit. Now, the monthly payment savings are through a temporary buy down funded at closing, and that is paying up front the difference between the normal payment at the full standard rate and the payment calculated at the reduced interest rates. And that reduction is for the first 2 to 3 years, depending on the buy down program used. Now, the seller, lender, or builder can pay for this at closing. A buyer cannot fund this themselves because then the loan is going to violate all kinds of rules created since 2008 market crash that deal with high-price mortgage loans and high-cost mortgages. So the buyer cannot fund this. The temporary buy-down fees are held in a non-interest-bearing custodial account. Basically, the temporary buy-downs are funded at closing, and those payments are made out of an escrow account to make up the difference between what the buyer's paying each month and what the payment should be at the normal rate. The lender is automatically going to apply the principal and interest difference out of that escrow account for the first 2 to 3 years, depending on the program. Now, what's really outstanding about this program is the balance remaining, any balance remaining in this custodial account, should the buyer choose to refinance before those funds are exhausted, are applied to the future refinance, and that's if they're refinancing with the same lender. So anything left in a custodial account goes back to the buyer towards their refi. Once again, the reduction in rate isn't going to help their debt to income ratios to qualify. They still have to qualify at the normal market rate. The first part we're going to talk about is the 3-2-1 buy down, and the monthly payments are based on a year one payment 3% lower than the current market 30-year fixed rate for that credit profile. Year two, that rate pops up a little bit. It's going to be a payment based on a 2% lower rate. Year three, it's based on a 1% lower rate. Year four, should the buyer stay in that loan, and I can't see anybody not refinancing within the first year or so when rates go back down. But should they stay in this for 4 years, on year four, the payment's going to go back to that normal market interest rate at the beginning of this loan, on the closing date of that transaction. The little sister to the 3-2-1 is a 2-1 buy down, and the monthly payments aren't going to save as much, and the cost is not going to be as much as the 3-2-1. The year one payment is only based on a rate 2% lower instead of 3. On year two, it's based on a 1% lower interest rate, and year three, again, it's going to revert back to the full interest rate should the buyer not refinance prior to that. These programs are available for primary, secondary, and vacation homes. If the buyer lives in that home for at least 2 weeks a year, then that's the definition of a vacation home. Vacation homes actually get the same interest rate as secondary homes and primary. Now, these are available for all conventional and government fixed rate only, no ARMs. That's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA, and USDA, including construction and renovation loans. Now, that's something else that you might file on the back of your head. It only applies to purchases, not to refinance. Owner-occupied primary residence, up to 4 units allowed, except for Freddie Mac's home possible properties under 3 to 4 unit. Let's take a quick look at the significance of the savings provided to the buyer in these programs. You're not going to believe this, okay? We're just going to take a $550,000 home, 5% down, a 522.5 loan amount, about a 700 credit score, market rate for 30-year fixed for this credit profile was 7.5% on a conventional. 7.5% is going to be over $3,600 a month. With the temporary buydown program, that first year rate is going to be 3% less. Look at the payment. That payment is significantly lower than what the buyer would normally have. $1,005 a month difference. Now, let's say the seller, for some reason, you talked him into slashing $100,000 off the list price to move this property. How does that compare? Well, the monthly payment, slashing $100,000 off, is still going to be $341 higher than list price. Higher than list price. So knocking $100,000 off the list price of this home is not going to save near as much as a simple, much less costly 3-2-1 buy down. Now, remember we talked about FHA seller concessions. Up to 6% is allowed. In this case, that's $33,000. Now, that's way more than needed to fund this program. And I'm going to tell you, you might think that sellers are going to balk, but our agents over here have been using this with great success in getting seller concessions to fund the 3-2-1 buy down on our FHA loans. I'm absolutely amazed, but when it's presented well, it's a no-brainer. So in this case, the 3-2-1 buy down is going to cost $22.5, and we'll show you how we come up with that later. Now that actually equates to about 4.5% of the sales price, so a lot less than the 6% seller concessions there. Far more significant savings than slashing $100,000 off the list price. I can't emphasize how powerful these are. Stop slashing list prices. Stop artificially lowering the value of our homes. Use these powerful temporary buy-down programs. Get buyers back in the market. Let's take a look at the payment savings on a 2-1 buy-down. Now remember, year one, it's 2% off in rate instead of 3%, like the 3-2-1 buy-down. Now, the question is, are we going to be able to still save more than slashing $100,000 off? Let's take a look. Year one, $2,966. Remember, we only get a 2% interest rate reduction for that first 12 months. The borrower's going to save $686 over the normal payment. Okay, knock $100,000 off the house. What happens? Bam! That's still $22 more expensive a month than the 2-1 buy down. Easily fundable within 3% seller concessions. Now, we're using these on our conventional loans almost 100% of the time. And it's just so much stronger for the seller than knocking off $25,000 or $30,000 off list price. In this case, it's only going to cost $12,500 basically, right? Well under 3% seller concessions, way less than $100,000 off list price. There's even enough money left over to buy the interest rate down a little bit more for more savings. More savings than knocking $100,000 off. Now, how do we calculate price? Well, it's just magic. We pop in some numbers, boom, price pops out. No, it's a little bit more involved than that. You're just going to ask your loan officer who's well versed in these programs how much it cost, and then approach the seller or talk to your buyer and get together with the listing agent and come up with a solution. The 2-1 buy down fee for this example is about $12,500, like I said. And that's just by adding the payment difference saved on year one and year two from what the normal payment should be. Add them together, that's $12,500. The 3-2-1 buy down program, we're going to take all 3 years. That is the monthly difference between the payments that are supposed to be versus the reduced rate payments. And that sum is almost $25,000. Like I said, that's a lot less than slashing the price $50,000 or $100,000 to move the property. Let's take a look at the benefits real quick, just some of them, and you can think of more on your own. But just massive monthly payment savings. And this is so powerful. I can't tell you how many more buyers we're bringing back to the market, how many sellers are just astounded and just jumping to fund this with seller concessions to move their property when we bring them our pre-approved buyers and talk to them about it. Remember, greater savings, either one of these programs, greater savings and price reductions up to 100 grand. That's insane. Easily funded through standard seller concessions. Smaller concessions today can save the seller far more than huge price reductions in the future to move that property. Your sellers are going to thank you. Our buyers are definitely going to thank you. Builder agents can show how to save millions of dollars to their builders with a proper temporary buy-down presentation. And I would facilitate this in collaboration with a well-versed expert lender that actually uses these programs to close transactions, not some loan officer that talks about them on TikTok or whatever social media they talk about them. I'm telling you, I hear it all the time. 2-1 buy down, 3-2-1 buy down. These folks aren't even using them. We use it on the daily, and it is so successful for our agents. Now, if you want to learn more about this, talk to any one of our loan officers. We can come to your brokerage, teach it to your team in person. We can screen share, whatever you want. But together, we can use these programs to bring buyers back and close more transactions.